1, we're on.
Shalom, shalom. Wholeness to
Shalom,
everybody.
shalom.
Well, what we want to do today, possibly, and that is to kind of magnify, clarify a couple of things that, particularly that I brought out yesterday. Yeah, I don't think they were clearly covered nor understood, in a manner as to how we must presently look at things. And I think, we've always heard about cause and effect. And we always look at the effect and try to resolve things based upon the effect. And as a result, we see we have failed miserably. And that goes back to the term that we keep using about rationalism and reason. It just will not lead you to the truth. But that's the cycle that we've been programmed to function within. So I kind of asked Eitai and Malkiel to read something out of Revival of the Holy Spirit. Now, I'm going to paraphrase the title, Revival of the Holy Spirit. Now, I'm going to say a revival of the spirit. Now, I'm going to change the word spirit to energy, the revival of the energy of wholeness. Now, that's something different from revival of the Holy Spirit, because the word holy, that has to do with a religious connotation, and it has to do with, and I've given classes on how they took the word whole and made it what is referred to as holy.
Okay.
There's no thing as holy. It's back to wholeness. So when you hear terms like righteousness and spirituality and all of this, these are terms that came into existence because it had to do with division and separation through a language that was intended to supposedly tie you into a higher force or a higher creator. And we know that ain't happened.
Okay.
That has not happened. So we gotta look at these things. So I'm gonna go back to the introduction of the revival of the Holy Spirit. Anybody has a copy, you read along with me, and then I'm gonna go to power versus force to kind of like verify. And it says, page 15, introduction, Ben Amin. He said, once again, allowing the Holy Spirit to guide my hand. Now, I just done already given us a update understanding of what's being said here. Okay? The Holy Spirit, and see, when we get to talk about the energy in these realms of ancestors and all of this, we are being bogged down, whether we know it or not, with something in the back of our head or in our consciousness called Holy Spirit.
Okay.
Hold on a minute. Sorry about that. So we started off talking about a redefining of a term that is very much an integral part of how we view things and how we understand things. So I read again, once again, allowing the Holy Spirit to guide my hand. And we're going to say the energy of wholeness to guide my hand. All right, that I may, in the name of the most holy Yahweh. Now here we go again with Yahweh, the most holy. So now that means then, when I say Yahweh is the most holy, then I'm going to say there's another God or another something is less holier, less, you understand,
Got it.
or not as powerful as Yahweh.
Okay.
Yeah. So we go on. He says, to execute judgments upon the lives that hold my people Israel and the anti-Adamic family in captivity. So we are looking for the most holy Yahweh, you know, to execute judgment upon the lies. But if that's going to happen, then that energy has to be activated and done by the people that represent, because Yahweh is not going to do nothing according to the scriptures, but reveal his secrets to his servants. I'm just trying to make us look at this. We must all consider, and this is one of the key points here, we must all consider this simple truth. We should never build or produce an exemplary new world utilizing the faulty and inferior materials of the old one. So now we have to look at what are the faulty materials. If we say the Holy Spirit, we're saying it, if we are saying something different about the Holy Spirit and the spirit of wholeness and the or energy of wholeness, then we talk about faulty. You follow what I'm saying?
Okay.
Faulty material. Okay, we cannot follow the prophetic design given by the Most High without summoning the courage to deal with the foundational lies of this world. We cannot go on putting new wine in old bottles. Well, foundational lies of the world. Now, the question, that we have to, what was he really trying to say here? And then so he gives two scriptural references, Isaiah 61 and 2. I'm not going to read, Revelation 12 and 9. Then commentary. Who are the people the prophet Isaiah refers to as being in gross darkness? Question. Where is the world inhabited by people that are calling darkness light and wrong right? Look all around you. The prophet gives the impression that they are everywhere, but you cannot see them anywhere. Now, that point right there. So the prophets give the impression that they are everywhere, but you cannot see them anywhere. Now, you remember what we talked about yesterday about, causes and effect.
Correct.
Got to keep in mind, in the present world or in the physical world, you're always dealing with effects, not causes. Now that's a key point, because here he say the prophet gives the impression that they are everywhere, but you cannot see them anywhere. How could something so obvious, gross darkness, escape detection? Another question. There has to be a group of obvious signs and symptoms occurring together that characterize such an abnormality, yet they go unnoticed. That, my beloved people, is the essence of deception. How long can such a condition last? Not forever, I assure you. In fact, I venture to say that we have traversed the last mile, and that this writing represents the last exit, except that you stop and turn around there will be no flesh left alive on this planet. Now I'm coming to one of the major pieces. It is essential that you understand the above mentioned in order to comprehend Satan's necessity for and power of deception. Within the context of the deception, of the definition of deception, we find a very profound revelation. Quote, to deceive is not just to tell a lie, but to convince the people that the lie is in fact the truth. That's the definition of deceive. Herein we find the definition alluding to the Genesis beginning of the Adamic civilization. Now here's the key point. The sole nature and purpose of Adam was to worship Yah and to serve his interests on earth. The original Yah image was incubated within the cycles of the eternal. It only knew, accepted, and functioned within the realm of what was good and right. It is the sole nature of Adam that creates the need for deception. So here we find the sole nature of the original Yah image being incubated within the cycles of the eternal means that the nature of Adam, it only knew and accepted and functioned within the realm of what was good and right. It is the sole nature of Adam that created, so Adam's nature creates the need for deception. Deception subsequently is not really presented as a competing alternative. Deception convinces you that the path it is taking you down is actually the path preferred by God. I'm going to go back again, cause and effect. The effects are always seen in the physical realm, but the causes, not understood, they don't take place. They're not in the physical realm. Causes is in the non-physical realm. And now that realm is being referred to as spiritual.
Okay.
So I had a person asked to me by one of the sisters. She said, by the way y'all talking and the way we talking, now she didn't say y'all, she said we, aren't we still talking in duality? So I haven't got a chance to get back to her. This is what prompted me to go back to this here. Now I'm going to close out with two last points. And this is the point. On page 17, it said, in this work, I uncovered the deception concerning the Greek term logos. Not surprising, the Encyclopedia of Gods lists logos as a god, but not just any God, as the God of gods. The prophet Isaiah has warned us that Satan would image himself as the Most High God. The matter now takes on a greater, more dangerous dimension. For the prophet revealed that Satan is hidden deep within the image of God, subsequently making his detection a very complex matter. His hiding place become impenetrable. Now, let's stop there for a moment and just think. We said Zachar Nikivah, the word Nikivah means to perforate, to penetrate, to thrust through or burn through, and all these terms. Now keep that in mind, but now without the relationship between, you know, the masculine and the feminine energy, then we are not going to see a conscious awareness, because remember now, Zachar meant a memorial of remembrance, or a remembrance, or a memorial, or a remembrance of that. So now, the relationship between the active feminine energy, you know, penetrating, you know, into the masculine, you understand, you know, image, and activating that conscious awareness, then nothing get done and nothing takes place that's going to bring an end to this duality. So now, the clinching point on it, we go to hold on 1 minute, Eitai. Okay. Now, there was a word that we used yesterday that it probably kind of bypassed some of us. And it's on page 27 in my book, Power versus Force. Now, very key word, and to try to bring everything I've said out. Power versus Force in my book is on page 27. It's in the chapter, the introduction. Now, here's what it says. It says, man is stuck with his lack of knowledge about himself until he can learn to look beyond apparent causes. From the human record, we may note that answers never arise from identifying causes in the world. Instead, it's necessary to identify the conditions that underlie ostensible causes, and these conditions exist only within man's consciousness itself. Now, the word there is ostensible. Now, most of us may know the meaning of the word, but I want to read the definition so that we can kind of get ostensible. Okay? The word ostensible. One second. Ostensible causes. This is what we're talking about. Ostensible. It's an adjective, and it means intended for display, open to view, being such in appearance, plausible rather than demonstratively true. Now, so here we've been talking about the demonstration of the power, and not just talking about it, but we're talking about the ability to demonstrate it. Now I'm going to go back. It says, and read it again. Page 27. It says, man is stuck within his lack of knowledge about himself until he can learn to look beyond apparent causes. In the human record, we may note that answers never arise from identifying causes in the world. Instead, it's necessary to identify the condition that underlie ostensible causes, causes that you can see, those that are on display. It says, and those conditions exist only within man's consciousness itself. So here we find that that which is on display, he's saying, for ostensible show of plausible beliefs or appearance, he said, these conditions exist only within man's consciousness itself. He said, no definitive answer to any problem can be found by isolating sequences and projecting upon them a mental notion of causality. There are no causes within the observable world, as we shall demonstrate. The observable world is a world of effects. The difference in finding effects mean reduces itself. Let me read it again. The difference in finding effective means reduces itself on examination to our inability to discriminate the essential from the non-essential. Thus far, there has been no system affording a method by which to distinguish powerful and effective solutions from weak, ineffective ones. Our means of evaluation themselves has been inherently incapable of performing realistic appraisal. And I'm going to stop right there. So now, I don't want this to sound complex, because we got to make this simple. And I'm saying that this whole idea of duality places everything in the perspective, the belief, the value of whatever you're talking about. This concept of duality gives it its meaning. And the meaning will always differ from the language or the knowledge of wholeness. So as long as we're in this realm of looking at things, you understand, from a dualistic way, there's absolutely no way for us to understand what is taking place and what is causing us to what? Feel, manifest, and go through what we're going through in the physical world. Because the causes is not in the physical world. It's not in the physical plane. And so we will say thought, then substance. But that does not bring wholeness into it, because the thought is either what? Whole, or the thought is what? Dualistic. In other words, it's two perception or it's one total perception. So the one total perception, seeming to me, is the only answer to what? Having a relationship with what's not seen with that which is going to manifest as the what? The seen, but they will always be one. Now, Eitai, I want to stop right there, and you can pick up from there, because if the oneness is not in the holistic way of thinking, the question for me would be, well, how do it move from the unseen to the seen, and it don't be the same thing? The unity of wholeness is the same in the unseen that it would be in the seen. That's how I'm seeing it. Now, if I'm incorrect by that, I certainly open to be magnified and clarified. So that's the point I want to stop, because I didn't think that we dealt with that concept in depth, because then to go back to what Abba Ben Amir was saying, I kept saying I was not clear. That could mean sometimes he was saying one thing and then another thing he was saying something else. So I wasn't clear on it. So that's why I brought it up today.
Okay. All right. Shalom and wholeness to everyone. And
Hello,
this idea or formulating a perception that is whole is problematic for us, obviously, because our whole experience has been from the standpoint of a dualistic mind. We have been interpreting on that basis. So, what we need to do is to always go back to the base, always go back to the beginning. And NASIK has done that to a certain extent. I think the best way to conceptualize this, to conceptualize wholeness, and Dr. Hawkins, uh, David Hawkins, has given us a pretty simple idea of this. And we won't go to the graph right now because these things, we have to do the exercise, Nasi, of training ourselves to see with the consciousness and not the intellect. All right. So this is where these thoughts and ideas exist in perfection within us all. We clear?
Right, absolutely.
So when David R. Hawkins in Power versus Force, he gives us two terms, enfolded and unfolded.
Right.
So when we think of enfolded, we are understanding the non-physical, the non-linear. We are conceptualizing wholeness,
Right.
but it has the idea of duality within that concept because it is the dual aspect that is folded into the one or the whole, folded back into, I should say, the one or the whole, into singularity. We clear?
Yeah.
So the original state of all things that we call life, and life not just in the physical aspects or the material aspects, but within the three-dimensional reality or simulated reality that we call the earth realm. The original state of all things is holistic, is singular, is one, and we're using the word enfolded. But to state that something is enfolded also brings the idea or the concept or the notion that it can be unfolded. So when we talk about a thought, which is singular, which is holistic, manifesting as substance within the physical plane, because we know that we are all at this current point within the physical realm. The holistic thought unfolds into substance within the material realm, and the thought manifests in what we call an unfolded manner. So let's say the thought is a business or establishing an institution. So in the material realms, it unfolds as write down a plan, write down establish a, what do they call it? Business statement, a statement. Uh, uh, get investors, gather the money together, find the location. Do, does everybody understand what I'm saying?
I do.
It is the one thought. It is the one thought unfolding, listen, into the linear or material plane. Now, it doesn't mean that it is separate from what? The original thought. But that it is because the perception of the business could be perfect. Does everybody understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that it unfolds from the nonlinear into the linear plane does not mean that it is separate from the one thought. This is what I think that we're confusing when we talk about something from a dualistic aspect, or put two things that are one and discuss them separately. We're misconstruing that that's dualism, because we see two things or two or more things. You with me, NASIK?
That absolutely right.
But it does not mean that it does not directly correspond to the original thought.
Right.
Only it becomes dual when the idea is misinterpreted, or the original thought or notion is misinterpreted by the aspect of mind. Of mind.
Excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
Are we together?
I am.
And then there becomes what? Even if it's a slight misinterpretation, it begins to veer from the original thought. And then now see, we don't have success.
Absolutely right.
Correct? It does
Absolutely.
not come to completion from thought to substance. So we must be able to distinguish between a perfect thought in the nonlinear or the enfolded region as it emanates or comes into the physical regions. It could be a perfect thought and a perfect unfoldment into the nonlinear or dualistic. Just because it becomes a plan that has step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, etc., and so on, does not mean that it is a dualistic thought
Absolutely
or a
right. Right.
dualistic manifestation.
All right.
So we have to begin to train ourselves, because we are in it, it's a skill, Nasi. We are in the
Absolutely.
world, but not of the world. We're doing this balance. But our job is to hear the call, which is holistic, and respond from a dualistic or material position within the earth realms, to respond holistically and to unfold the holistic thought, notion, or idea perfectly
Right.
according to holistic language, holistic instructions, and a holistic perception. Do we understand the difference?
I do.
Okay.
Right.
So I think where we're missing it when we see two things, or we're discussing two things, or we are conceptualizing two things, it doesn't mean that that is dualistic or dualistic language. If we are, if we have the higher conception of those two things being what? Holistic, one
One.
holistic idea.
Right. Right.
It's a
Right.
skill, Nasi. It's a skill. And it takes
How can you tell?
to develop that particular skill to, again, observe and know the holistic in its nonlinear, in its enfolded state, and then recognize it what? As it is unfolded to,
Oh, right.
to whatever degree or power,
Right.
whether it's two, whether it's four, an unfolding of 4, 8, 16, but to what? To be able to maintain that connection with the source.
How can you tell?
Cain.
Makiel.
Shalom, Maki.
Shalom, shalom. Wholeness and oneness to the family.
Absolutely.
Uh, with your permission, I would like to touch on what NASIK brought in the introduction of what he brought forth earlier
Cain.
to kind of bring to kind of bring clarity to what you're saying about about the oneness, because when you read at the bottom of page 17, it says, for the prophets reveal that Satan is hidden deep within the image of God. See what we have been given. See the whole Satan narrative itself is deception.
That's correct, brother. I'm glad
Correct.
you brought that out.
Because when you truly understand language and symbols, see the serpent was given to us as a bad thing.
Correct.
But when you look at the serpent in its holistic definition, and in the ancient world, the serpent represents wisdom.
That's correct.
So it says that the prophets revealed that the wisdom is hidden in the image of God. They're one.
Cain.
Okay. So when you look and change the understanding and the narrative of things back to its proper place,
Correct.
it is one.
Cain.
It is one. See, again, when we see Satan, the first thing that pops in our thought is, oh my God, it's bad.
Right.
Okay. Which makes it dualistic.
That's what makes it dual, right?
That's
absolutely. It makes
correct.
it makes it dualistic. Like, oh man, so we want to step away from that, not understanding that they're talking about the wisdom and knowledge of the universe, which is God.
Absolutely.
Or
It-
see, if Akitai, if you know, in the presentation that I sent you,
Cain.
I don't use God no more.
Right.
I created my own word, which is acronym SEOL,
Oh,
which
very good.
which which I call it soul,
Brilliant.
and the acronym SEOL is the source energy of life.
Brilliant.
So I don't use God
Brilliant.
because Satan, again, ain't bad. It ain't wicked. Satan, when you understand from the ancients, with the symbol, because we're talking about symbolism, with the symbol of the serpent, which represents wisdom, because if you look at the pictures of the pharaohs, they had the serpents on their crown.
Correct.
On their crown, right.
Representing authority.
Right.
So for the prophets revealed that the wisdom is hidden in the source energy of life.
That's correct.
Dang.
So excellent. And what we need to do too, again, is go back as Malkiel inferred, that we have to go back to the source, that we have to go back to elemental understandings of particular terms and symbols. Now, see, this is what we're doing. But again,
I think absolutely right.
but
Right.
again, it takes practice. It's a skill because again, when we look at, like Malkiel said, we look at two things that are apparent opposites, God and Satan. All right, God and the devil, good and evil. But we must understand that those two, that everything that is opposite or that is presented as an opposite, that's what the word Satan means. It means adversary, or
Right.
the thing that stands against something, not in terms of an active resistance like we've been taught, but just stands at the opposite end.
Right.
It is a pole. It means
Right.
adversary. We started to talk about, and we're going to talk about again, the adverse tree. It is the yin to the yang, and the yang to the yin. There is no good and evil.
Like north and south.
Absolutely. East and west. Right. There is no good and evil. This is the moralistic training that we have had that what? Prevents us from syncretizing and synthesizing, excuse me, I'm getting tongue tied, things that are what? Apparent opposites. Apparent opposites. But again, we must train ourselves not to look at difference first. To identify a thing, and at some point we're going to take a look at the word identify and identity, and you're going to see the word sameness, not difference. The way that the divine mind identifies things is not through difference, but through sameness. We must understand identifying NASIK difference is a low vibrational mindset
Absolutely right.
because
Absolutely.
it puts us into the um, the aspect of the survival mentality or the survival imperative, where we must, as scared lower beings, identify anything that is different, and we identify it from the point of alarm and from the point of a threat. But a divine mentality understands that it is eternal and understands and differentiates between the physical, which is what? The illusion and the simulation of reality, and the divine and the eternal. When we view things again from an energetic standpoint at all times, it moves us out of the physical into the what? The energetic, and closer to the source, which is holistic, which can unfold, but the supreme expression of it is what? Singular, enfolded, non-dual, and whole. So again, this is something that it is a skill that we must develop. And through our continued exposure to what? Holistic language and holistic thought, it raises us up energetically from a vibratory standpoint, from the dualistic, moralistic, good versus evil, black versus white, Hebrew versus Gentile mindset, and we understand the source of all things, that it enfolds the unfolded, simulated reality, enfolds in all of its variation, in all of its apparent differentiation, in all of its apparent separateness, in the end, enfolds back into what it was originally.
Right, right.
All right.
Okay.
So we must continue to expose ourselves and to this holistic thought, allow the symbols which are holistic to do what they're intended to do, and
Eitai,
and to train ourselves into vibrating, into thinking holistically. Go ahead, Nasik.
uh, this is a suggestion for all of us on the line, and I think this will help because we got to continue to move. I think this will help us greatly as we daily come on and study. If we take Power versus Force and go to the chapter, The Search for Truth,
Yes.
The Search for Truth, and read that. But the main one where you want to really focus in is under Islam. The commentary under Islam explains everything that we're talking about right now. Everything
Okay.
very clearly. Now, the next thing you're going to go to the glossary and you're going to read the non-duality portion. Those two, if you read the non-duality portion and read the commentary under Islam in the Search for Truth, I guarantee you it's going to click. And
Okay.
we'll clearly understand it, and we'll be able to move more what? Freely and more fluidly. So this is a suggestion. Okay?
Now, Nasik,
Yes, sir.
again, you brought out some, I think, tremendously profound points today, and as well as Malkiel with this understanding that, and this is hard because we, again, we've been trained from a mental and intellectual standpoint to resist what it is that I'm about to say. That good and evil are one, that God and the devil is one,
One.
that hot and
Mm-hmm.
cold, that hot and
Mm-hmm.
cold is one.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Mm-hmm.
understand what I'm saying? That all
Mm-hmm.
dualistic
Okay.
opposites, that all dualistic opposites
Yes.
eventually enfold back into the one thing, the source.
Right, right.
So uh, today we're going to take a look at this with the brother's permission. That we want to take a look at these things. There is a teaching because I had to train myself, Nasi, to see this, but I can show you, and eventually we're going to do this somewhere in the study where we go through the Bible, and I have a list of everything that is attributed to God, everything that is attributed to Satan, and
Mm-hmm.
I can show you quite clearly in the Bible, in the so-called NASIK holy scriptures. They, but they are in fact NASIK whole. I'm going to prove it.
Right.
That
Right.
that the statements that are attributed to Satan, we find God saying about himself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A perfect example, and we're going to explore this today to a certain extent, is if you look at the book of Job, where I believe it's the 30th chapter of Job. I might be mistaken. But when he is talking about Leviathan, Malkiel,
Mm-hmm.
the serpent,
Mm-hmm.
that he's talking about himself.
Right.
Right.
And if
That's right.
and if you read, he's talking about an aspect of himself. And if you read the Psalms, the description of Leviathan in the book of Job, and again, I think it's the 30th chapter, you read in the Psalms, it's talking about Yahuwah.
Mm-hmm.
Exact same word for word. But our religious mind and our dualistic training, again, I see, we see difference and not sameness. So,
Right, right.
but I had to train myself to see sameness. And I can put God and Satan together in the whole Bible. Not the Holy Bible, but the holistic Bible. But
All right now.
you are with me.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
Absolutely.
I can do it all day. I can show you examples all day where the attributes and actions of what we normally would think Satan would do, God is doing it all day in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying it all day in the Bible, but again, without a holistic understanding, a holistic mindset, we would never put these things together. We would never syncretize them. We would never synthesize them. So again, we're going to do this and practice this um, today. And if there's nothing else, NASIK, Malkiel, I'll continue on.
No, no, I'm
Yeah,
good. I'm good.
I'm good. I'm
All
good.
right. Anyone else? Anyone else that have any comments, questions?
Go ahead, continue, my brother.
All right. All right. And again, we're going to get, like I said, just to show you, and we will cover it. The beast from the sea and the beast from the earth. All right. The beast from the sea and the beast from the earth. One is Leviathan. And this is where we ended up yesterday, involuntarily, where our enemies ended the class yesterday. I'll talk about that a little bit before we get started and let everyone know what happened. But this is what we were on yesterday. We're going to do a quick review, and actually not so quick, but we'll eventually get there because, again, we need to see these things. So what happened yesterday, and everyone witnessed it. I'll start at the beginning when I came home from dropping my daughter off at work. When I pulled on our street, down the street, maybe about 3 or 4 houses on the other side of the street, there were several trucks that were on the street, and apparently, I didn't stop that long. I just noticed them. They were apparently doing work, I thought, on the cable system because we just got Spectrum in here within the last, I believe, 12 to 18 months. And it's been kind of problematic that when the way that they set it up, they had to keep tweaking it because when we got any type of severe weather, beyond the norm in Cleveland, uh, it would knock the cable system out. So I thought that they were just working on the lines because a storm had come in. Lake effect storm had come in the night before. And so I just thought that they were tweaking the lines or something like that. And when I came in, I immediately, because I knew we were going to get on, I checked the cable system to see if it was up. And indeed, the Wi-Fi and everything was up, strong signal. And we went on and got on the class. We had been on for a few hours, and I had looked up at the clock at the time, and it was a little bit after 12, while approaching 12:30. So when you listen on the tape or on the recording, I say that I'm getting ready to close out, and we were going to bring this thing as we do every day, full circle. So we start out establishing one end, we roam the heavenlies, and then just organically we end the class where we began. And if you look at most of the recordings, you're going to see that pattern is pretty consistent. So at that point, I'm getting ready to do the close of the class, and I begin to hear just some slight chatter. And I look because I have the administrator board to see, whose mic is open, but no one's mic was open. And it was at that point I began teaching again, closing it out, and NASIK was like, "We can't hear you." Well, sometimes that happens because the signal, there's some interruption in the signal. We have a lot of people online from a lot of different places. It could be something that is atmospheric that is happening with the signal, and it'll delay a couple of seconds and recover. But when NASIK said that, I looked over at the control panel, which is on my right, and I saw something that I hadn't seen before. That the audio, it says something like that the audio
Hello?
was trying to connect.
Who is this?
And as soon as, well, to back up a little bit, prior to that happening, a truck was right in front of my house. And the reason I know it was a big truck because I had to speak a little bit louder, and I was looking at the microphone uh, uh, to see if it was detecting the sound that was coming from outside. And it was at that point I kind of stood up and looked, and there was a big white truck in front of the house. And right after that, NASIK said, as I continued to teach, NASIK said, I can't hear you. Looked over at the control board. It was saying that the audio was disconnected. And I looked back, and the truck was pulling out right at the moment that he said, we can't hear you. And the truck was pulling off. And at that point, I knew exactly what went on. Mission accomplished. Now, I want to tell you all, when I called NASIK to let him know on the phone what had happened, you all were still online, correct?
Okay.
And NASIK told me that a message came on that said that the administrator or the operator, which is me, was offline or experiencing some type of technical trouble, and that they would shut the meeting down.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
they had already shut the meeting down. It was just on delay, and it was curious because I thought it was a problem with the cable. And I'm online, everything is on, full bars, didn't have anything to do with the cable. I went in the bedroom, walked across to the bedroom, looked at the cable box, full bars, cut the television on, no problem with the cable. But it was the signal that was targeted and knocked out. I'm going to tell you, I waited for it to recover. It never did till later on didn't recover. It was trying to recover. It wasn't going to recover because it was knocked out. I let it stay on 4 or 5 hours and then finally restarted it, and it was fine. But that was knocked out. So that's what was happening. Somebody is mad, but we don't care. Let them get mad.
Can't stop this.
Can't stop it. And that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So again, in talking about, we're going to look at this symbol again as we review. Looking at apparent opposites and connecting these opposites. So we looked at the word or the letter, the first letter in the word nichava, which is what the word that is translated as female. In male and female created he them. But we see that even in the apparent dualism of male and female, it says, male and female created he them. The idea of oneness is within that concept. And when we break this thing down and look at the noon, the letter noon, the first letter in Nekhavah, we see this idea of apparent opposites joined together. In the first letter, the medial noon, which is bent, connected by the vav, which is the connector, and taking on the opposite form of the noon, which is noon sophit, as it appears at the end of a word. And again, we saw that this was very prophetic and in predicting what would happen to our people, that they would bend the knee, all right, submit themselves to affliction. Now, this happened 400 years ago in the captivity and the enslavement of our people. The faithful one bent the knee, but during in the process of time and the unfoldment of this one idea, they would again stand up and reclaim their power as the righteous one, or the one that is upright. Again, NASIK, giving a non-religious connotation to the word righteous. It just means upright. All right.
Right.
Within the context of the symbol, bent, then upright. Bent,
Right.
then upright. But it is one idea to what? We had to correct a flaw. And we've already understood that this flaw was genetic. So let us keep that idea. Now we're going to be talking about these symbols, and we're going to be talking about celestial objects, stars, nebula, supernova. Understand the energetic nature of these things. And again, not as something that is outside of yourself. As above, so below. So the entire universe, including these unthinkable powers or inconceivable powers, are not simply just outside and above us, but they are inside all of us. We clear?
Yeah.
So, duality was present, and again, it was no accident. It was present in the beginning, and it was symbolized as the heaven, which is what? Nonlinear, enfolded, whole, that idea, and the earth, where things are linear, unfolded, and fragmented, or dualistic. So a correct transliteration, not translation, but a correct transliteration of Genesis 1:1 would be at first, or in place, were created these mighty ones. And again, Malkiel, I stay away from the word gods
Okay.
because of the obvious dualistic
Mm-hmm.
connotation of that.
Mm-hmm.
But these powerful, mighty elements, these overarching, fundamental elements, the heavens, that is the idea of the one pole, which is above, and the earth, which is the Satan to the heavens, or the opposite
To the
idea,
right.
represented as below, as above, so below. That must be the overarching axiom that we keep within the forefront of our consciousness as we look at these things. That even as we talk about two things or two different things, they are all one and they all exist within us, the yin and the yang. So we're going to talk about briefly again the aspect of this bending the knee. And historically, it's referring to the faithful and voluntary free will sacrifice of the sisterhood. And when I say the sisterhood, I'm talking about the physical individuals, and I'm also talking about a cosmic procedure that was done. So it is both cosmic, which is the enfolded idea, and historic, which is the unfolded idea as it happened historically or within the space-time continuum of Earth. Are we clear?
Okay.
So we understand the history of this. The feminine
Mm-hmm.
energy is always primary. Now, that doesn't mean supreme. It is always primary. It always initiates. So we have to understand that these sisters, these spirits that decided to emanate into the earth realms to do what? Express this enfolded idea of the bending of the knee, of the voluntary bending of the knee, or free will sacrifice. They understood, not consciously, but in the their non-physical or non-linear or spiritual state or energetic state prior to emanating, they knew exactly what they were getting into. That in the physical, unfolded realms, that they would be subjecting not only themselves to this affliction, to this process of submitting themselves to their enemies, that it would not only affect them personally in the physical, but it would affect their children as well throughout this 400-year period and even beyond. Are you all with me? Am I clear?
Okay.
So in Isaiah 53:1, it talks about this. And they usually take this to be talking about this suffering servant or this faithful servant as a male. And it is. The idea is there in wholeness. But the scripture says, by his knowledge shall my righteous servant justify many. And again, this is a translation under patriarchal domination. So we've always understood this suffering, faithful servant to be male, that is Jesus.
Yeah, that's how we did it.
Right.
But divine knowledge tells us that it was the sisterhood. It was the feminine energy
Mm.
because it's always primary. So by knowledge, again, knowledge of forethought, this righteous servant bent the knee to what? Justify many. Divine knowledge of forethought. Verily, verily, I say unto you, except a corn of wheat do what? Fall to the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. So this aspect of a voluntary sacrifice that would involve physical death is there. But we're going to find out, Malkiel, that this was something that was done, that was a process of what? Cleansing the soul,
Mm.
purifying the
Mm-hmm.
soul.
Mm-hmm.
So, from a spiritual standpoint, in the non-linear, enfolded state, the souls that volunteered to to unfold into the physical realms 400 years ago, to go through this process, understood with knowledge. And again, this is where I used to argue with the Christians. It doesn't say by his blood, it
Right. Right.
says by his knowledge.
Right. Right.
So again, we must understand that this was knowledge of forethought, that we have an existence energetically that precedes what? Our current manifestation within the physical realms at this time. Before Abraham was, I am.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding our, not our, just our physical identification, but our energetic identification. Energy has no beginning and no ending. It is eternal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we went through the process of looking at the tarot cards from 12 to 21. All right? From the hangman to the resurrected or upright feminine energy. This bent down unto death. Are you all with me?
Mm-hmm.
And then the process of standing up, reassuming the position, power, and identity that we had from eternity. And we went through this. We won't go through it again, but what we want to do is concentrate on this star, because I had told you that there was a term for a star, and I'm talking about a celestial body that would shed greater light on our understanding of the present times, the end time that we occupy. Now, in these last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards, prior to the final representation in the world card, we see prophetically a narrative that we're all familiar with. We'll start with the judgment card. And from a biblical standpoint, when we read these scriptures that are what? Connected to the end time judgment, NASIK, we all understand that prior to the end times, all throughout the Old and New Testament, that the sign of the end time judgment would affect what? The sun, moon, and the stars. Am I correct?
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
So we're all familiar
Mhm.
with that. So these last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tarot cards demonstrates that. But we can't take the usual religious interpretation of this. We must understand this from a higher energetic and spiritual standpoint, because as was evident at what happened at the end of the call, again, I'll repeat it. As we raise our consciousness level and our dynamic energy level within our bodies, within our temple, and we raise our vibratory frequency, it affects things in the earth realm and in what we call the heavens. But these things are occurring in us first and are reflected, listen, and unfolded within the physical realms. We all right?
Absolutely.
Can.
So Isaiah 30, 25, and 26, I'm going to read these separately as I have them displayed. And there shall be upon every high mountain and upon every high hill rivers and streams of waters in the day. Now, it's not talking about the exact day, it's talking about the yom, or the period. A yom is a period of time. It could be
Mm.
24, it could be 12 hours, it could be 24 hours, it could be 42 hours, it could be within the same week, within the same month, within the same year, or within the same prophetic period of time. Are you with me?
Mhm.
So the first card begins with a tower being struck. And we all know 9/11
Mhm.
indicates that we're right at this end time period. And at that time, it says rivers and streams of waters would be manifest. So we look at the next card where we see these streams of waters. We see the one cup in the figure's hand is pouring it out on the land. Are you all with me?
Okay.
And it is doing what? Breaking off into 5 separate streams. The other cup, and she has her knee on the earth and her foot in the water. This is going to be very important as we get into the book of the Revelation, when we see the angel standing with one foot, what? On the earth, and one foot in the water. Seems like something that is separate, but we're going to syncretize it and make it make sense and use this as a point of enlightenment. And she's pouring one of the pitchers of water into the pool of water where her foot is. All right. In the moon, we see water represented as well. And in the judgment, we see the waters represented as well. You all with me?
Okay.
So Isaiah 30:25 is saying that this thing would be initiated what? When the towers fall, and that there will be a day of great slaughter. We witnessed that. 911 New York City. As a matter of fact, it was during that time that I was in the church teaching. And the thing that I was teaching about was number one, Y2K. And I remember I was publicly chastised in the church for teaching that. Now, we don't believe, we're Christians, we don't believe nothing bad is going to happen. I wasn't saying that something bad was going to happen. I said that that would be significant. And it was significant on a personal level. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, but I want to stay on track here. The other thing that I was teaching about was that there was going to be a major disaster in a major city. And I not only referred to at that time this scripture that referred to a tower being hit, and if my Isha was here, she would verify all of this that I'm saying to you at this point. Bear with me. Not only that scripture that speaks about a tower, but the words attributed to Yeshua in the New Testament, where he was talking about the Tower of Siloam. The Tower of Siloam. And I'll bring that scripture up now. I think it was in Luke. Now I want you to listen to the language because this is coded. Again, this is coded. There were present at that season some that told of the Galileans whose blood Pilate had mingled with their sacrifices. And Jesus answered, saying unto them, suppose ye that these Galileans were sinners above the Galileans, because what? They suffered such things. How? As a sacrifice. I tell you, nay, but except ye repent, ye shall likewise perish. Or, look, those 18, key number here, upon whom the tower of Siloam fell and slew them, think they were sinners above all men that dwelt in Jerusalem. I tell you, nay, but except ye repent, you shall likewise perish. This is what the tower is saying. All right. Now it says the 18. The 18th shows both towers. Are y'all seeing this? They're showing both towers that would prophetically fall. I was saying at that time, while I was at the church, that something was going to happen. I was using these two scriptures in particular. I did not know that something was going to hit the towers. But later on, after I got kicked out of the church, well, actually, I didn't get kicked out. I was about to get kicked out. I just left. Nazar, they can't kick me out of nowhere. Because I'm going to leave.
I know the feeling. I know the
So
I've been there.
I knew the handwriting was on the wall, but I left. But the morning, I was asleep. I had work late. The morning, my wife was up. It was her day off. It was my day off. We shared a day off, and she got me up. And she said, you got to come look at this. I think this is what you were teaching about. So I get up in time, family, to see the second tower, just as the second tower, second plane rather, hit the second tower. And I'm in disbelief. I said, I didn't see it like this, but it's happening just
Right.
like, and I'm using the script. The phone began to ring off the hook. As these
I bet.
Christians, as these
Right.
Christians at that time called me all day, off and on all day, and say, this is exactly what you were teaching. So it was later now that I had the understanding of this through the tarot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm linking this up to you because I taught on this exclusively. But again, not with the insight and the understanding of wholeness, of this true nature, the true nature of this language. So again, all of these end time prophetic scriptures, we all know that they involve the sun, the moon, and the stars, correct?
Okay.
Isaiah 30 is a soon coming, Isaiah 30 and 26, 30 and 25, we've already witnessed. We're all familiar with that. The next event is in the next verse, Isaiah 30:26, where it says, "The light of the moon shall be as the light of the sun." So the moon is going to brighten up. Last night we noticed again this blood moon. Was it last night or the night before, Malkia? No, it
Night
was
before.
last night. And we noticed this
Night.
super blue blood moon. The light of the sun shall be sevenfold. We're going to understand what that is exactly today, as the light of 7 days. And in the day the Lord bindeth up the breach of his people, the breach that caused what? This voluntary sacrifice by our forefathers during that 400-year period of enslavement. You all with me?
Okay.
And healeth the stroke of their wound. The wound occurred here, and we're still suffering from this wound, this post-traumatic slavery mentality that we had, that within the Willie Lynch letter said that this process would go on and on and on and be self-refueling until what? We touched some substantial original historic base. I'm giving you the original cosmic historic base. Are you all with
Mm-hmm.
me? So
Okay.
reversal can take place, and it is taking place. I said yesterday I did not have the name of this particular event that would cause the sun to shine more brilliantly, sevenfold more brilliantly, and to last for 7 days. But I have that right now. And we're going to take a closer look, like I said, at this star tarot card. The one thing that I want you to understand, it is the 17th tarot card. Malkiel did a brilliant decoding of this number 17. yesterday. And once we provide the recording of that, you can go back over that section. And again, it was a perfect decoding of the 1, the 7, and then the 8. Speaking of the 8, we must notice that there's one giant super bright star with what? 8 points or 8 rays on it. Everybody see it right in the center.
Mm-hmm.
There are 7 more smaller stars that surround it. So they each having 8 points or rays on them. So I want you all to take 8, the 8 stars, multiply that by 8, the 8 points or rays on each stars. We got any mathematicians in here? I just want to see if y'all got the same thing I got. 8 times 8.
64.
64. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be cutting school during math class, so y'all don't have to. I thought I was right. Thought I knew that.
I say it was 1.
You said what?
I was muted. I couldn't give you an answer.
Okay. Yeah.
8 times 8 is 64. 6 and 4 is 10. 10 is 1.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, brother.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's look at Genesis 1 and 14. I'm sorry, 1:14 through 18. NASIK referred to these things the other day when he, gave that dissertation, bringing us and connecting kava to kokav and the kava that is the star. That is the star. Kokav and kava. See, again, these seem like we're talking about different subjects, but we're maintaining what? The idea of wholeness.
Mm-hmm.
To syncretize these things, to synthesize them, and to bring what is apparently dualistic together into one, under one idea, a whole idea. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night. Let them be for signs and for seasons, for days and years." Now we've already noticed these signs. We've already interpreted these things, to determine what sign or what time and season or yom that we're in. We're in the very end times. And the tarot cards framed it by the tower. The tower is a hint. And let them be for signs, seasons, for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light where?
On
Upon the
earth.
earth. Now, we're just not talking about physical light on the earth. We're talking about enlightenment. So our
Mm-hmm.
understanding of these things is going to be what? A light. And God made 2 great lights, greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. And he made stars also. He made the stars also. So we're talking about this star. And we're going to have a greater and higher understanding or understanding of this star. And it is talking about what? A power, an ability, something that resides in us. And it's going to be when we understand the immense power of this thing, of this star that we're referring to, it's going to be almost difficult for us to imagine that we incorporate that power within us. But it is the truth. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to what? Divide the light from darkness. It is dualistic, but it's purposeful. The dualism is purposeful. Again, it's not a mistake
Right.
that this division exists, that this dualism exists, but we must keep in mind that if it was divided in the beginning, or the true nature of it is not dualistic. It is whole. The same way if I would divide an orange, it doesn't mean that the orange is dualistic. It means I just divided it on purpose for a reason. We clear?
It's
I
still
get that.
orange.
Uh,
I get
say again.
I say
I
it's
get
still
that.
orange.
It's still
Now, I say if you take and divide the orange, it's still an orange. You
that's
follow what I'm
correct.
saying?
Yeah, it's still a whole concept.
Right.
You just divided it for a purpose. And then verse 30, I believe this is verse 30 here. I didn't put it in. It says, and God said, what? Let the waters, you all see the waters, bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and the fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament. Daniel 12, 1 through 4. And at that time Michael shall stand up, the great prince that standeth for the children of thy people. There shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time, listen, thy people shall be what?
Delivered.
Delivered. Everyone that shall be found written in the book. Now, everybody should know what that book is.
It goes back to the Cossack records, right?
Akashic record, which is
Mm-hmm.
melanin, which is the record that is within all of us through DNA. Correct?
Right.
We're going to connect
Gang,
all these things now.
Akita,
Yes.
Machiel again.
Okay.
It's also no coincidence. You started off with the fourth day talking about the lights and the stars.
Yes, sir.
The fourth chakra of the body
Yes.
is represented by the tetrahedron, as we know as the Star of David.
Yes. Yes, sir. And keep that in mind, because we're going to look at that symbol. That symbol is going to present itself. Now, the fourth chakra is which chakra, Shosh?
The heart chakra.
We're going to talk about the heart now. All of this is related.
Mm-hmm.
This is a holistic idea. This is how we know this is holistic language. Because the call is going out as holistic and the response is holistic. It's going to tie everything together. And
They have to be, right, right.
It would have to be. So we cannot be talking dualistically. We are speaking
Mm-hmm.
the holistic tongue. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. See, the dust of the earth. So
Mm-hmm.
when we see dust of the earth, let's say soil. Let's say soil or SEO SEOL or
So,
SOUL. Are you all with me?
Mm-hmm.
Or
right.
Mm-hmm.
SOLE. We all gonna
Mm-hmm. Come on.
seems
Yes.
like it's different words, but the
Right.
holistic mind,
Right. Come
Malkiel
on,
did it.
Eitai.
He made
Yes,
it
sir.
up. But it's the holistic mind and the holistic thought that is driving him to do this. And that SEOL is what, Malkiel?
It's the acronym for the source energy of life.
Source energy of light. This is all we talk of life. This is all we talking about. Now, see, it's one thing. It ain't a lot of things.
That, that's the only way it's going to make sense.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get to it now. Let's get to it. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament. And they that turn many to righteousness, or so what are we talking about? Those that stand up, that help individuals stand up who were what? Bent down.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's all we talking about. We all know what that is. Have we all been bent down?
Okay.
Come on now. But thou, O Daniel, see, here's what happened now, see. Shut up the words on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Seal the book on purpose. Till when? Even to the time of the end. Y'all got to know that the book is being opened up, that the words are being opened up. How?
Mm-hmm.
Through holistic thought and holistic
Mm-hmm.
language.
Okay.
That's the only way it can be open.
Yes.
I say never through holy thought or holy
Right.
language.
Right.
We got to cut that out.
Right.
Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. If we don't know that we are experiencing this right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what to tell you. So let's look at this tarot card a little bit more because again, it's going to syncretize this to a fare thee well. It's going to speak of every aspect of our reality, and not only that, every aspect of the things that we've covered thus far. If we observe this card carefully, we can notice that the female figure, again, divine feminine, depicted is very much aware of herself. So this Nasi is the first step is to be aware.
Mm-hmm.
The second step is to be conscious. The third step is into realization. Fourth step, enlightenment, then illumination.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So she is aware of herself. She's awakening. She is beautiful, totally naked girl. Her right foot is upon the water. We're going to find this once we go into Revelation, the same symbolism. While her left knee is on the ground. The body posture is modest and humble.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that characterizes the sisterhood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She holds 2 water urns, indicating the water bearer or the age of Aquarius, or the age of Oriphiel, NASIK. The age of Michael has passed away, has given way, and it was indicated in Daniel 12 when it said Michael will not stand up, but stand aside. She holds 2 water urns, meaning that this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. The water that falls on the ground nourishes life in every earthly seed. The water that goes back into the pool is what? Purified water. One that cleanses and recharges the very essence of the water element. This is part of that process that the sisterhood or the feminine energy volunteered to accomplish within the physical realms, within space-time. That what? As we read in here, would bind up the breach of us as a people, and at the same time heal the stroke that occurred during her voluntary sacrifice. Making sense to anybody?
Yeah.
Kane, Eitai,
Okay.
can I ask NASIK a question?
Sure. Go ahead.
NASIK, did the father give the women of valor a charge?
Yeah.
What was that charge?
1980, 1983 or 84. And this is interesting.
And that year is very important.
To this very day,
go ahead.
They have not understood the charge, and this is one of the main reasons I'm on the sideline, because I was trying to explain what they had to do in the charge, and a sister asked the question. Here's what she asked her. She said, "Do the rest of the Nisakim know this?" And you know, I'm too wise to tell me, "Oh no, I'm the only one know that."
Right.
When I said, well, you know, I said we're not talking about who know and who don't know. I said let's let the Father explain to us. So I go to page 10, you know, in Law of Relativity, and I read page 10 to a top paragraph, and it explained everything to her. But naturally, you know, she couldn't understand it, so she went back and mentioned something to somebody, and it blossomed into what it is there. It's been almost 2 years since I've been able to. Yeah, the charge of the women of valor, you know, a few years back, he told them that he was charging the black woman, the African woman, to realign, you know, everything. And the definition for alignment was to be brought back into precise adjustment of correct relative position. That was the alignment. But their charge was, you know, and I always, you know, brought this before them, that we got to deal with the charge. If we don't deal with the charge, then we have not fulfilled our role. You know, again, this whole thing about what they had to do in relationship to man, and that's what the threat was. You know, they had to redefine And let me read it. I'm gonna get it. Go ahead on, Eitai. I'm gonna get it.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
This is very important that we tie this aspect in. And
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be tied in, Malkiel, through the narrative. You'll see uh,
Okay.
when we get into these specific dates. So again, looking at the woman kneeling, pouring one urn on the earth or on the land, the other in the water. Let's break these symbols down. The pool symbolizes the subconscious mind or the inner region, the inner self.
Mm-hmm.
The land is naturally rather the material world,
Mm-hmm.
while the girl is in charge of restoring what? The vital life force in both.
Yes.
That is now. This is going now. It gets into what Ben-Ami charged the sisterhood with, bringing everything what back into alignment.
Mm-hmm.
It must first occur mentally, inwardly,
Okay.
and then it would be reflected what in the material world. The water urns indicate what? The unity between the water element and the earth element.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say wholeness.
That's exactly what it is. The star, listen, indicates what? Renewed hope, new discoveries, and inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
The female depicted in the card knows very well, what have we been saying? Knows very well what she is supposed to do. NASIK,
Uh-huh.
it's already in the sisterhood to know, but the dualistic thought is preventing them. The dualistic thought is
Okay.
preventing us.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's preventing
Yes.
us. All this stuff is inward. The female depicted in the card knows very well what she is supposed to do. This is something that we have emphasized over and over again. And as we talk about the cosmic historic bending of the knee, that it was faithful, it was voluntary, and it was done with what? Knowledge of forethought. All of our experience, it's nothing accidental about it.
Okay.
It was all done with foreknowledge and knowledge of forethought. And we are just picking up on this, and we must understand that the knowledge and the wisdom and the skill to do this is inherent. We already
Mm-hmm.
have it in us, but we just have
Mm-hmm.
to, it just has to be awakened.
Eitai,
Yes.
I guess, did NASIK find that it's in the Tree of Life 174
Uh,
charged in
I,
1980?
yeah,
1980.
he has walked away from the, he might be looking for it.
I'm looking for it now.
But if you don't have it,
It's in the Tree of Life 174, page 174.
Okay, Tree of Life, NASIK, page 174.
I don't. Which book is the Tree of Life?
I have it. If you don't have it.
The manual.
Okay, if you got it, go and read it.
Go on and read it now.
The divine order of the woman of valor. The divine order of the woman of valor was established by the anointed and Savior Ben-Ami at an International Sisterhood Conference in June 1981. And he stated, your charge is to teach, think, meditate, and consider how do we become one again with our man.
Wow.
You must teach sisters, young girls, yourself, and women from other parts of the world. A total family structure must go forth. The woman of valor are a sign of season of the familyhood. You must go back to your man, become one again. Then the strength of Yah will come back to you for the final phase of the struggle.
That's what created the problem, brothers.
Yeah.
When I started to talk about how we were going to do that, that became very problematic.
Yes.
I mean, very problematic.
Right.
Because of the male ego.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now, see, this is Kolai. I missed something. I did the sister read where it said, I know when Robbie first taught that, and being one that made that emblem, he originally said the sister should kneel.
Yeah, that was at kneel before so that the brothers could rise, right?
Hey, let me go on to this next part, because that's an important part. Kalai, watch this, y'all.
Come on.
The kneeling figure. Y'all got to know.
Dang.
The kneeling figure, one could say, redistributes the material of the psyche, separating the personal from the transpersonal. This is just, this is just too good.
Right. Right.
The suppressed aspects of the psyche are now what? Being released. Now, this is very important because we're going to understand that this release is going to be earth shattering, literally. They come to the ground, that is the soul, and start to function in what? A realistic way. Sisters, y'all getting ready to change something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Psychologically, one could argue that here we see what is called the anima, the archetypal female part of the soul. See, but we got to join now and syncretize the female aspect with what? The male aspect. This is the heart of what, it's at the very heart of what Abba was talking about. Is it not? Same language.
Yes.
The kneeling figure.
Yes.
There is a line of thinking that connects. Yes.
This is Agnes on.
Uh-huh.
Can I just make a statement right now? To my Isha, Deborah,
Okay.
you just read that, right?
Okay.
Okay. I just want you to remember this moment when you get back home, okay? All right. All right, tell her, Eitai.
Okay.
I know that's right.
There is a line of thinking that connects the female depicted on the star. Now, we're coming back full circle now with the goddess Nuit. Instead of being depicted merely what? As the firmament, Nuit, or Nuit, who in Egyptian mythology was the goddess, again, bad word, she was a netter of the sky. In this tarot card, takes human form. She pours out the main characteristic of her nature. Now, I want the sisters to connect with this. Her eternal waters of love. You had mentioned the fourth, what? Chakra, which
Shock.
is the heart chakra.
Yep. Okay.
And look, sisters, the gifts of the spirit. I told you all the other day, I told my wife to start blessing the family. See, the sisters don't know what they have.
Right.
You all have the power. We're going to get to this today. If everyone could stay on about a half hour and just focus on a half hour, because we're moving into this now.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be a primer of how you begin to demonstrate powers. Now, I'm talking about the sisters, but I'm not including the brothers. But the sisters are going to be primary in this. The Father knew this. Start to bless your families out loud.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, you're going to get immediate results. My Isha did it the day before yesterday in the evening when I told her about it, and went to work the next day and got immediate results. People moving out of positions. The next 3 days, they're training her for a supervisory position, and those 3 days she gets supervisory pay.
Wow.
And the guy that is leaving, she turned to him and said, well, who's going to be taking your position when you leave as supervisor? And he looked at her and cocked his eyebrow.
As though you are.
So begin to use that tongue. We're going to talk about that. That's the sword that you have. That's the two-edged sword. It says that right here, that it separates the personal from the transpersonal. But you got to start speaking it
Mm-hmm.
with power, with confidence. And it says that when she pours out the main characteristic of her nature, the eternal waters of love and gifts of the Spirit, thereby signifying the process, what? Of the constant renewal of life, and what? The limitless possibilities of the existence. Whatever y'all say, that's what it's going to be. So 8 stars times 8 rays or points per star equals 64. We still talking about the sisters now and their power.
Mm-hmm.
Yet another interpretation says what we see in this tarot card is actually what? The great mother of the Kabbalistic Sephiroth, Bina. A representation, Bina means understanding. You all already understand what to do. And not just in this case, it's a representation of the profound understanding of everything.
Mm-hmm.
This is this divine feminine, the profound understanding of everything. So you can no longer say that you don't know. because I'm telling you, it is your nature to know. It is in you already. But you just have to identify with this and this awesome power that you have. There is a huge, brilliant, 8-pointed star depicting in the upper part of the card. Now we're going to talk about this specifically because, sisterhood, your power is here. And like Malkiel hinted to, this power is being reflected above in the heavens in a celestial event that has already taken place. So
Mm-hmm.
all the sisterhood has to do is to come in alignment with that. Y'all ain't hearing what I'm saying. Y'all ain't hearing what I'm saying. All you got to do is align yourself with this knowledge and with this understanding that you already have. The brotherhood is here. Now we get back to Zakar or Nikivah. Our purpose is to remind you
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
of who and what you are.
Yes.
Are we doing that?
Eitai,
Cain.
say that one more time, please.
I heard I
Hey, Deborah, don't worry about it. Zimmer, I get it too. 24 hours a day. But this is all in love.
Kane, I'm clear.
This is the nature. This is the nature of the brotherhood. To what?
Kane,
Remind. To be that memorial.
Kane.
Because
Eitai.
our resurrection, our full and total resurrection and restoration depends on y'all. This don't have nothing to do with nothing social or cultural. This is energetic.
Eitai.
Cain.
Got to get that ego out of the way.
Bruh, get ready to get
And
you,
that's
Maria.
that's
Get
my
that
point.
Wait.
Because if the brother don't align himself with the feminine
With
X
the
chromosome
sister. Right.
within himself,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? He cannot bring the effective remembrance to the external outside himself.
Doing something from a religious, cultural, social, ego-centered standpoint. And don't nobody want to hear it. Don't nobody want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
We not
he got no creativity.
that no creative energy at all.
Mm-hmm.
Not connected to it.
Mm-hmm.
And no power to cause the sisters to what? Remember.
Right. Okay.
Hey, brother's trying to make a wife or a girlfriend.
Right.
They not trying to make a star.
Right. Yeah.
What we trying to do is remind the y'all are the star. The biggest, the brightest, the most beautiful, and has the primary power to create whatever type of life that we want on this plane.
Absolutely.
It is surrounded that it's obvious that the brothers can't create no life like that and can't bring forth. You know what? We don't have the equipment.
Right.
We ain't got no. We don't have the physical equipment.
And never will.
Right.
Eitai.
Yes. Go ahead, Nazar.
You know, the feminine spirit or the feminine energy forms, shapes, and develops everything.
Absolutely.
We sometimes forget that. And the brothers have to be conscious. See, we was all created in that patriotic energy.
That's right.
And at the back of, and at the base of everything, that patriotic energy is very much alive in us.
That's correct.
So we really, really have, because sometimes we be half-heartedly saying things just to be politically correct.
Right.
Right.
But we have not really submitted ourselves to the understanding. Quit talking about that wife, but talk about that feminine side of your own energy.
Yes.
Hey, Nazar, that is perfect. We're gonna talk about this because what we're saying, and Machiel said it. He said it's the ego, and it's the ego has to die in the sisterhood, and it's got to die in the brotherhood. And we're going to see once we take a look at this that we're gonna kill the ego in the sisters through love, and they gonna kill the ego in us through love. Are you all with me?
Okay.
We're gonna see this perfectly. So we see this huge, brilliant, 8-pointed star. It is surrounded by 7 smaller stars, each of them also having 8 rays. So we've already done the math, right? So in a mystical sense, now we're going to go from the energetic to the physical now, but we're going to deal with the mystical sense first. In the mystical sense, this is a sign of the spirit or a sign of the energetic nature of the sisterhood. It is, and the brotherhood, as a matter of fact. It is our mystical center and what? True destiny. It tells us to be optimistic, positive, no matter what's going on. I'm going to say that again. It tells us to be optimistic and positive no matter what's going on. The star is a symbol of the pure spiritual love that awaits us where? On the end of this journey. You all with me?
Absolutely.
Now, we're going to get into now the material realms and understand, but I mean it's still spiritual, but it's going to seem like we're talking about science and space and stuff like that. But understand, this is still talking about this spiritual energy as it is manifested in the material. Remember, where do we say this part? Oh, where it talks about the inner regions and the material. That's connected. So as above, so below. So as the sisterhood now starts to understand their true identity and nature and purpose, it is causing a concomitant effect. What? In the material realm. Inwardly and outwardly, but inwardly first. The 64 that we talked about corresponds to the 64 possible combinations of DNA. And understand, DNA just is referring, NASIK, to our ability to what? Connect and unfold in the physical.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The genetic information of the mRNA is composed of what? Is composed of an alternating sequence of 4 bases. We won't get into that, but we just want to pay attention to the numbers and how these things work. This alternating sequence provides the unique code specifying each of the what? 20 amino acids naturally found in protein. It was early realized that the only way condoms for the 20 amino acids could be spelled out from the 4 available nucleotides was to use combinations of at least 3 bases. That is 4 to the third power, or 64 combinations. These 64 combinations represent all 64 possible condom combinations. But I'm going to tell you, it's more NASIK than 64. 64 is just the wall that in our current material bent position, we can't see beyond that wall. Are y'all with me?
Okay.
Because we just said that the sisterhood now, when she steps into her role, she's going to signify and manifest the process of constant renewal of life. Now she already does that in the physical. As what? Nasik, Kava, the mother of all living. But also the limitless possibilities of existence. So if it's limited, we know it can't be 64.
Mm-hmm.
David did the gematria when he said 6 plus 4 is what? 10. And 10 is actually what? 1.
One. Mm-hmm.
Which represents the starting point of limitless possibility. It goes into infinity. Are you all with me?
Okay.
Okay.
So, moving on. The name of the star was the Eta Carinae. I couldn't figure it out. So I want everyone to look at the figure of this Eta Carinae. What does it look like?
Like a figure 8.
Looks like the figure 8, don't it? Don't it, Malkiel?
Okay.
Looks like the figure 8.
Mm-hmm.
So this is your 17, right? 17.
Mm-hmm.
This is your decoding of the 17. 1 plus 7 equals 8. We know that 8, that sign is the sign of what? Infinity.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Endless possibilities. So, sisters, your sign has shown up in the heavens, in the firmament.
Mm.
The name Karina means the keel of a ship. I'm going to say that again. The name
Mm.
Karina means the keel of a ship. Similar mothership connection.
Yes.
Are y'all
Back
making the mother? Are y'all making the mothership connection?
symbolizes also the backbone or the strength.
Nah. We wanna stay with the keel of the ship. You're correct, but I don't want to mix metaphors.
Okay.
I want to stay with this. It means the keel of a ship. See, we talking about the mothership now. We talked about that the other day. I hope y'all got it.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, the etymological root of the word protein is pra, which refers to the hull of a ship.
Mm. Okay.
The reference to protein here and its apparent etymological relationship with the word carina is due to the fact, listen, that protein enzymes serve to do what? Correct mutant DNA. Ain't that what the sisterhood did?
Mm-hmm.
In this cosmic bending of the knee, it's time for y'all to stand up now into y'all upright, properly aligned position. Eta is the seventh letter of the Greek alphabet, and originally meant in Greek meant seven. Therefore, Eta Carina is likely the seventh angel of Revelation 10 and 7. Sisters, but in the days of what? The voice of the seventh angel. Start blessing your family, seventh angel. Start blessing yourself. Use that inherent power. And it says, when he shall begin to sound, again, I'm going to put that in parentheses because that is the patriarchal
That's right.
understanding and mistake. When the voice of the seventh angel shall what? Begin to sound. I'm telling you all, begin to bless your families.
Mm-hmm.
The mystery of
Mm-hmm.
God should be finished as
Mm-hmm.
declared to his servants, the prophet. So they're saying, like I said yesterday, that this supernova, Eta Carina, is about to explode. It says it is also believed that Eta Carina will explode in the non-distant future. So what is this explosion?
Yeah, what is it?
The voice of the seventh angel.
Wow.
And will be the most spectacular supernova humans have ever seen. Eye has not seen, nor ear
Eitai.
heard, nor the heart imagined what the divine feminine. It's limitless possibilities, y'all. Are y'all hearing me?
Eitai. King. Eitai. This is Makiel again. And we witnessed that at the inception last year, January 21st, 2017, when the Women's March, after the day after Trump got inaugurated,
That's right.
and they had the Women's March, it was something to behold because it was global.
Did they stand upright?
Absolutely.
Come on now.
Absolutely.
Now, here's the secret now. It is believed that this star may contain, now I'm talking about you, sisters, I'm talking about you, brothers, as much as 315 times the mass of the sun.
Wow.
Ooh.
Wow.
Which presents a conundrum to astronomers. See, this is something spiritual that is happening.
Yes. Yes.
This is something that you all are doing that you must align yourselves to. Astronomers, they ain't never seen nothing like this because they believe that the largest star could only contain 150 solar masses. But let me tell y'all what happened, what y'all did. The answer is this, that the R13 136A1 is probably formed when several massive stars merge together or synthesize. Ain't that the idea of wholeness?
Yes.
Y'all got to see this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Needless to say, R136A1 or Eta Carina is set to detonate as a hypernova when y'all start blessing your families. When y'all align with divine nature and purpose. Any day now. Bear with me as I close. Eta Carina or Eta Carinae is the divine cosmic yoni. It is the combination of two spheres. And this is the 3D model that the scientist has. These are two opposites or apparent opposites that are what? Joined together to create a creative, energetic field. And it creates the yoni, which is represented by the yoni or the vesica pisces, which is created by the intersection of two fields of energy, male and female,
Mm-hmm.
good and evil, black and white, dark and light, whose centers are located in the parametric boundaries of each other. Each contrasting field is a product of a pulsating energy diffracted within a contextual medium of energy. These pulsations create interference patterns within the same field that had created the original disturbance. Each field,
So,
let me continue on and close
okay.
this out.
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
then each field interfaces with the other, creating a turbulent field of virtual energy.
Mm.
The Vesica Pisces depicts the creation of a central province of foam-like probabilities that emerge as a result of the interaction between two or more quantum fields of energy. To the ancient, this interlocking ring arrangement was known as the Vesica Pisces or mandorla, meaning almond or almond shaped, referring to the union section or the synchronization of the two rings. In the Hebrew Kabbalah, NASIK, all life is described as entering the world through the mandorla interference region between what? The dual ring. Now, see,
Uh-huh.
ain't no man got that equipment. So from a patriarchal, dualistic mindset, we thought erroneously that the brothers had to initiate everything.
Right.
But did Abba
Right.
not correct that or attempt to correct it?
And he attempted to set it in motion, and I was the only one that come to understand it. And when I started to try to, set it in motion, it was like resistance because Abba didn't say it, but he did say it. They just didn't understand how he said it.
That's correct.
Right.
You know?
You can't understand a holistic concept with a dualistic mind. And that's how we started out.
That's
Yeah.
key. That's key.
So now, very quickly as we close, so in the Hebrew Kabbalah, all life is described as entering into the world, NASIK, piercing into the world, perforating into the world. Because isn't that what a baby does?
Yeah.
Is pierce what? These two intersecting rings.
Yeah.
It is a gateway for all things, material and energetic. We have not understood this.
Right. Right.
So in Hebrew, all life is, in the Hebrew Kabbalah, all life is described as entering into the world through the mandorla interference region between the dual ring. That ain't saying, but it's done by the feminine energy and the sisterhood. Are you all with me?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So like Raquel, melaninated women today have been sitting on or hiding these household gods. Bless your household gods. Bless your household. Begin to bless your household gods. Now see, they ain't with me.
Yeah, well, Eitai, but I really, I think today has really helped to put the sisterhood that's online in harmony with what Devorah read as the charge. Now she can understand the charge much better.
Correct.
Yes.
Let's continue on and close this out, because this is a high point that I want us to meditate on. Like Raquel. Now, NASIK, Raquel represented the dominant trait.
Right.
Leah, with the eye problem, represented what? The recessive trait.
Right.
So, melaninated women today have been sitting on or hiding these household gods until the time of departure, separation, and judgment.
Wow.
See Genesis 31, especially verses 32 and 35, and we're going to read this as we close out. I'm going to be sending out a amended version of this teaching so that we all have it, that we all can even review it and even move forward, because I think it's necessary, NASIK. Yeah, you can toss that one out. Again, we probably be amending the same thing maybe a half a dozen times. But just bear with us. Again, let us look at Genesis 31, verses 32 and 35. with whomsoever thou findest thy gods, let him not live before our brethren. Discern thou what is thine with me, and take it to thee. For Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. Brothers, see, we didn't have the full understanding of the nature of the sisterhood either.
Mm-hmm. We did.
And we have to correct, because we're not looking at them from an energetic standpoint. We were viewing them, NASIK, from the position of the mind, which viewed them as social creatures from a cultural standpoint, from a physical standpoint, from a material standpoint, from a social standpoint. Are you all with me?
Right.
We didn't know she had them gods with her. So Jacob didn't know. And Laban went into Jacob's tent and into Leah's tent. See, Jacob, ain't no way Jacob could have them. He ain't got the equipment. Into Leah's tent, she's recessive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unto the two maidservants' tent, but he found them. And we know that the two maidservants don't what? They're not going to share in the inheritance.
Mm-hmm.
Then went he out of Leah's tent and entered into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel, she had the goods, good DNA, fully melanated, dominant aspect. Y'all hearing me?
Yeah.
And put them in the camel's furniture. And what?
Sat on them.
Sat on them. So this is putting it right in the physical area that it needs to be. And Laban searched all the tent, but found them not. And she said to her father, let it not displease my lord, that I cannot what? Rise up at this point into my what? Upright, aligned position.
Wow.
Not time yet.
Right.
It would only be at the time of the end that the bent noon would what? Rise up into the right, perfectly aligned position. You with me, NASIK?
This is perfect. It says precise.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, like absolutely on the niquido. You know what I'm saying? To be brought back into precise adjustment, a correct relative position. I mean, no error.
That's correct. And she said to her father, let it not please, I cannot rise before thee. Why? For the custom of women is upon me.
Right.
And he searched and found not the images. I'm showing you the images. The Vesica Pisces. I'm showing you the image of feminine power in the heavenlies. But as above, so below.
Mm-hmm.
The divine dual rings, the pearly gates of the great black mother. The pearly gates are what? The entrance way into heaven.
That's what the pearly gates is always said to be.
This is where heaven comes from. So the sisterhood is going to be the one that what? Brings heaven down into what? The earthly realms. So now see, when we look in Revelations, we see what? The divine city, Jerusalem, which is what? Perfection.
Right. It said, what she said, coming down from heaven as a bride prepared for her, for the groom or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Adorned. Adorned. Now we're gonna talk about this word adorned. Now we're gonna go higher with this now, because it's all we can't be speaking dualistic language and putting all this stuff together. NASIK in one day.
No, that's
Y'all got to see this. So, see, we're empowering now who we're supposed to be empowering at this point, and in the same time, Amaria, empowering that divine feminine within ourselves.
That's right.
Absolutely.
We're not separated from
absolutely right.
Got to be in perfect balance.
But again, we're going to start out with the original thought, Nasi, the enfolded idea, which puts the sisterhood first and primary, must what? Unfold perfectly according to what? The divine idea. So it sounds like we're talking about two things or several things. We ain't talking about none but one thing.
One thing.
All right.
Okay.
I appreciate everyone's patience. NASIK, we have to realize that everyone's presence here is working to move this dynamic movement that we are all experiencing.
Eitai.
Okay.
David, you remember the other day you asked a question about the perception of where this was going to go. Do you feel like this is a proper time to mention it or raise the question, or you want to hold it for another time?
It not only is the proper time to ask the question, but it's the proper time to say that the question has been answered to a large degree in this conversation.
That's what I'm talking about.
Sisterhood, it's time for the sisterhood to, it's clear, it's plain, it's wide open, it's unequivocal, and the sisters on the call can read the charge and take their rightful position. It's time for the sisterhood to read. They don't have to ask the Nisakim, can we do this? They are charged to do it, and I'm sure the sisters on this call have an understanding. And by the way, as a secondary, the sisters can say, well, NASIK was asking us to take the charge, and that's the root of the whole problem. And now that's been resolved also.
That means you already know I'm going to talk with Devore, and we're going to set this in motion because we can't stop this.
No, you can't.
Now, NASIK, this is where we're going to tie this together real quick within the next 3 minutes or so. The scripture tells us that death and life are in the power of the tongue.
Absolutely right.
And they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Now we know exactly what this is talking about. So I featured again the magic card, which is number 1. It is the starting point where we're going to begin, and it is the sister. Again, that is always this feminine energy that is the starting point. We're going to put this on the 1. All right?
Right.
All right, Jack.
So it is Isis that is that is depicted here. Isis was
Okay, I got cut off, but I'm back.
okay, good. Isis was considered more powerful than 1,000 soldiers. Listen now, see, the clever tongued one whose speech never fails. We just talking about the sisterhood. So, see, in a patriarchal system, when we said one would chase 1,000, we
Right.
automatically thought it was the brother standing up there with his hand,
Absolutely right.
standing
Right.
up there like Superman.
Right.
But it's the feminine energy that is going to begin this. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. And again, in Isaiah, it says that he hath the two-edged sword, the sharp sword coming out his mouth. But brothers, from experience, tell the truth. We know it ain't us with the sharp tongue.
Nope.
Absolutely not.
Oh no, ain't no
Nope.
question about it. Ain't no question
Right.
about it.
Right.
I see.
No contest.
No contest.
Right.
No contest. But we,
Absolutely.
through this patriarchal ego, we put he hath the mouth, hath made my mouth. Well, it says, he hath made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand, he hid me. He made me, and the word hid is kava.
Mm-hmm.
Made me a polished shaft. In his quiver hath he hid or concealed or sat on those gods. See, it's been the feminine energy, but it's been hidden. Laban, the man, didn't know. Jacob didn't even know that this was inherent in the sisterhood. So again, how should one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight, except their rock had sold them? That means the sisterhood had what? Been down voluntarily.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And ye shall chase your enemies, and they shall fall before you by the sword. And 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 shall put 10,000 to flight, and your enemies shall fall before you by the sword. And again, erroneously, it says out of his mouth, but it's out of the sister's mouth goeth that sharp sword, that with it we're going to smite the nations and shall rule them with a rod of iron. And you see always the sister, the feminine energy, with what? The rod of iron and with the sharp two-headed sword. But like Raquel and those divine images, it was hidden what? Behind the male. You all with me?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Dang.
So we're clear that this is the sisterhood. This is why when the United States chose an image, it didn't choose a male image because they knew the secret to our power, and it was feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
although they put up the representation of the Euro Gentile, hidden behind it was what? The great black mother,
Mhm.
the divine feminine. So with that, I'm going to end there. I think, Nasik, we have brought this full circle. So
Yeah, I think we brought it full circle. Listen, just point to everybody the initial notes that I sent out. Delete those, and everybody got the got the newest one, okay?
Hey, same way. I'll be putting up the 2 videos, or the one from yesterday, the one from today. I'll be sending you the amended notes again. Anything that I've sent you in the previous 2 days that related to this, discard them, throw them out, and keep this one.
Okay.
Okay,